Hello everyone, this is Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about another major snowstorm with a reinforcing shot of Arctic air. Welcome back everyone. I wanted to point out all the different social media platforms that I'm on that I do the weather on a daily basis. I created this easy clickable link that you can go to and find all my other weather platforms. I've got my own website here at ponderonweather.com. I'm also on Instagram. I just started a TikTok, and then you can also follow me on Twitter and then Facebook, and then of course I'm on YouTube on a daily basis where I give weather updates. So if you hadn't subscribed already, go ahead and click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell and get all my notifications, which I do my daily updates every morning. So let's delve into the details. First, let's talk about that snowstorm yesterday. Man, that was an impressive snowstorm. These totals were pretty impressive, and it started back in Mississippi. Yes, we're talking they had snow in Mississippi, and you can follow the graph here and for the snowfall legend, anywhere from 1 inch all the way up to 12 to 18 inches in orange here. But yeah, some of these totals were pretty big. I mean, look at that. Fredericksburg, 14 inches. There was a time in Fredericksburg, just north of there, that was snowing on almost 4 to 5 inch per hour snowfall rates. It was really coming down fast and furious. And look at that, even Birmingham got some snow, and parts of northern Alabama. Yes, that is 8 inches of snow for northern Alabama, right? This elongated all of Tennessee here, and it went up even into portions of the Carolinas, but it really blanketed Virginia. Then when it got up near Washington, D.C., it started really dumping. And then these good swath down here in the orange here, that's a lot of 12-inch plus totals. So, and then it got all the way up to southern portions of Philly, and then it finally went off the coast. But even Delaware picked up some pretty healthy amounts of up to a foot of snow. So, but there's more to come. We've got actually 2 snowstorms to talk about, one with the Clipper system and then another snowstorm to follow. So let's kind of look at the overall hazard map this morning. And we've got new flood watches, and it continues to be inundated with that atmospheric river off the west coast. That's helping to feed these systems and push some of the heavier snows in the interior regions of the mountain regions. But now we have a new storm that's going to be brewing, our Clipper system. That's the first one we're going to be highlighting. So they've got new winter weather advisories in portions of the Dakotas and to Minnesota, portions of Iowa, as well as Wisconsin here, where they could easily pick up 1 to 5 inches. And you could actually get some lake effect snow once it gets into portions of upstate New York along the lakes here. Say Buffalo could be picking up like say 6 to 9 inches over the coming days with some lake effect snow based on the wind direction. And these winds are going to really be starting to crank as this next system gets closer. We've got high wind watches and warnings in place for parts of South Dakota as well as Nebraska. Let's kind of zoom into the overall temperatures this morning, and that's that first initial Arctic blast, and it's still feeling the effects all the way down into the deep south and the southeast, with widespread 20s reaching all the way to the coast this morning. So that is definitely some colder temperatures, and there's all the negatives up here in Canada. But we start to modify a little bit, but yeah, we have another reinforcing shot of Arctic air on the way. So let's take a look at the culprit of where all this precipitation is coming from, way out here in the Pacific. And this is the precipitable water imagery, and kind of gives you an idea of this graph here in the red. That is some 2-inch plus rainfall potential. And it's essentially, it's going to be able to pick up all that deep moisture in the Pacific and going to help pump it up into on the jet stream off the west coast. And it goes down to about 1 inch per hour rainfall rates. But that is a lot of precipitation going to be feeding back into the west coast. That's going to be on Wednesday night going to the Thursday. So where they have yet another reinforcing shot, and probably more flood watches by then along the west coast, with this new reinforcing shot of atmospheric river moisture. But that is going to help feed that initial snowstorm of our Clipper system. So by the time we get into Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, January the 5th here, we've got that heavy rain reaching the coast here off the coast of the North Pacific. And then we got the heavier snow feeding the interior regions and the mountain regions in Idaho here. But then we have our new clipper system that's going to be developing with some light to moderate snow breaking out in portions of the Dakotas, getting into Minnesota, as well as central and northern Wisconsin here with that 994 millibar low pressure. And you can see the Arctic air of that 1035 Arctic high and that 1051 Arctic high pressure. That is some seriously cold Arctic temperatures that are going to be plunging southward in the days to come. But by the time we get into that Wednesday night, going into that Thursday morning time frame, there's our initial clipper system going to be staying further, more or less, into our northern areas of northern parts of Minnesota, northern parts of Wisconsin, getting into Michigan here, and again right along the lake effect here into portions of Buffalo. Nothing along into the Northeast with this first initial system, but you can also already see the beginning stages of our second snowstorm we're going to be highlighting to come. But first, let's talk about some snow amounts on this first initial system. Again, they've got winter weather advisories. Typically that implies about 1 to 5 inches of snowfall within this band, anywhere from the North Dakota, getting into Minnesota here along the lakes. With the kind of the warmer the lake still, you're going to be picking up a little bit heavier amounts, just because you're going to be adding some of that lake effect snows to that region. But you can already see the second system reemerging as we get into that Wednesday night, Thursday time frame. Getting back into Denver. They've only had less than 6 inches of snow in Denver so far this season. We're going to be adding to those totals a couple inches for them. We're going to have a good swath of 1 to 3 inches come in for places into Nebraska here, with isolated amounts up to 5 inches. And then as we continue to expand the view on our first initial clipper system, there's the snow of, again, about a 1 to 5 inch swath of snow, depending on where you live here up in this clipper system. But yeah, northern parts of Michigan here, about 1 to 3 inches with some heavier amounts along the lake effect from this first initial clipper system. So now let's look at the temperatures going forward on Thursday, January 6th, with that new reinforcing shot of Arctic air. And yeah, that's not a misprint. That's 41 below zero temperature up here in Canada. That's some brutal cold stuff. And that's going to be plunging southward. You can see the -20s getting into -30s here in parts of Montana, into the Dakotas here. But you can see the initial blast. We try to warm up and kind of as the winds turn around on the south, but that's not going to last long, because we have another reinforcing shot of Arctic air, and these are Thursday 6 a.m. temperatures. You can see by the time we get into that time frame, Oklahoma City's like 23 degrees, right? I mean, we're getting into Dallas. That initial plunge is going to be plunging the temperatures. There's Missouri back into the teens, and that's where our next snowstorm is going to start to originate in that area. Because look at the winds, and I can kind of show you how all this is going to play out. So you got that kind of atmospheric river. You see these little dots here. That's the wind direction. So these are some higher winds. This is Thursday 6 a.m. right? So you got the winds pumping in off the west coast with that atmospheric river. You got the new reinforcing shot of Arctic air with that 20 below zero temperatures in Glasgow, 24 below in Bismarck, all the way down to 23 in Oklahoma City, 8 degrees in Chicago. But it's not cold much, terribly too cold out to the Northeast. I mean, you got Quebec here, 26, Ottawa in the 20s. So that's not that cold for them for this time of year. But when you can see as the winds turn around from the south, we're back up to 64 in New Orleans by the time we get into the Thursday, waiting for that reinforcing shot of Arctic air. So, and then once the jet stream gets past this system, you can see the south winds kick in. So the atmospheric river is going to be able to feed off the west coast, but once it gets more or less into Missouri here, it's going to be able to feed from the Gulf, and that's going to feed our second snowstorm that we're going to be highlighting now. So as we get into that Thursday morning time frame, that initial storm comes from Denver through Nebraska here, and starts to really crank up again at the beginning stages and parts of central and southern Missouri, and then starts to really, as it pulls in some of that more deep, Gulf moisture here, it's going to be able to feed this system, going into that Thursday night into the morning hours on Friday. So we got more snow heading back into Tennessee, more snow heading into parts of the over Kentucky here, southern Indiana, southern Ohio here, central and southern Ohio. And this just feeds back into West Virginia with some more snow. And you can see the 1030 and 1032 Arctic high pressure. That's the cold air filtering in on the backside. So where the cold air and the Arctic air is, that's the drier side. On the east side, that's the warm side. The warmer side are pulling up the Gulf, and the cold air drains on the backside. You got a developing low pressure system going to be developing in some of these same areas that picked up some significant snowfall totals. So as we take a look at the Vorticity index, it's not as impressive as our initial system that we just had. So I still think it's going to be a pretty good snowstorm, but probably not as significant as what we just saw yesterday. But yeah, I mean, it's good. There is some lift, but it's not like a very dynamic system that's coming into play. But some of these totals can be fairly impressive, especially on top of what we've had. So by the time we get into that Friday morning time frame, that low pressure 995 millibar low pressure is going to be hanging off the coast, pumping in all that colder air. We've got more snow heading back into Pennsylvania here, going up to probably northern parts of Jersey, getting into New York here, as well as heading up the coast into Connecticut and Massachusetts, going into Vermont and New Hampshire, and then eventually going into Maine, as again, you see that atmospheric river continuing to funnel off the west coast there. And then as we get into that Friday afternoon time frame, it really starts to amplify. We're down to a 982 millibar low pressure. So that's some deep cold air pumping in heavy snow on the northern side as we get into the ski country areas, and especially going into Maine, as we are getting all that colder air pumping in on the northern side. So, but as we transfer into the weekend, you can actually see where the red and the orange shades are. That's your warmer air. So that Arctic air really doesn't last long for places into the south. It already has the south winds pumping up, and we're not talking snow. We're talking heavy rain into portions of Louisiana, getting into Arkansas, portions of Mississippi, into parts of Tennessee. As those winds turn around, as you're getting back into a little bit of the warmer temperatures, it's going to be able to pump that Gulf moisture and start to be some heavier rain, if not some flooding rains by then. So, but as we get into that Sunday time frame, again, it continues to feed the system. The warmer temperatures continue to lift a little bit further off to the north, and then as that cold air is still into place, this is not till Sunday, but we probably have to be concerned for an icy ice storm setup in parts of Pennsylvania, going into upstate New York, as you're going back to work on that Monday time frame. So we got a lot of time to kind of fine tune this particular setup. But yeah, on the backside after the snowstorm, we could be looking at an ice storm by the time we get into that Sunday time frame for northern PA here. But let's kind of break this down. So here's kind of the highlight. So here's the heavier precipitation. It's going to be hitting off the west coast on the atmospheric river into places into Washington and Oregon here with that heavy rain. You go inland, it pulls down the Arctic air, so you got heavy snow in the ski country area of Idaho here, and then you got much below average temperature anomalies for a good chunk of the northern and central U.S. here, extending all the way down to Nebraska and to portions of Kansas. And that's right now first indication of some of that heavier snow bands are going to be setting up on the 6th and 7th time frame, with our another snowstorm going to be hitting off the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast So we could have some heavy snow setting up onto central and eastern parts of Kentucky, going into West Virginia. We get into southern PA, northern Jersey, going into parts of New York, as well as Connecticut and Massachusetts here, Vermont, New Hampshire, and heading into Maine. And there's our flood threat on the south side. So as we again crank up as we rebound from that Arctic air, as the winds turn around, we could be looking at some heavy rain setting up by the time we get into that 8th and 9th time frame into Louisiana, portions of Arkansas, getting into Mississippi and Alabama here. And so as we kind of look at the expanded view as where the snow, some of the snowfall totals, kind of a preliminary amounts. Again, I think originally there's the first Clipper system, and then here's our second system that goes through the Nebraska, kind of picks back up again into portions of central and southern Missouri. And then you have about a 1 to 5 inch swath. And as it gets up here, that's where some of the heavier snow is going to be able to fall with about a 5 to 8 inch swath. And it could be out, isolated areas of 8 to 10 inches. But we'll be fine tuning this in the days to come on the actual snowfall totals as we get closer to this event. And there's your overall ice as you get into that Sunday time frame, where we might have to be concerned about an icy setup into portions of Pennsylvania, going into portions of New York here. But that's not until Sunday, right? So you got plenty of time. But that's going into your Monday morning commute. So you gotta be able to look at this on your radar, going forward, coming out of your weekend. But let's look at the overall precipitation with that atmospheric river off the west coast. And then as it dives down to the midsection of the country, it really starts to die down and not really have much precipitation at all. It picks back up again once it crosses and picks up some of that warmer precipitation off the Gulf of Mexico. There's your flooding rains along the southern regions are going to be help feeding the storm going into the Ohio Valley. So, hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Hit the subscribe button if you hadn't already. And catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.